Hello, and this is the Warpforge with another Arkham file for you all. Today I go into the reptile man himself, Wayland Jones AKA Killer Croc. Killer Croc is a free agent who cannot align with Batman, Law and Green Arrow forces, typically because he is an Arkham rogue and tends to have a taste for human flesh, which doesn't really go down too well with good guys, if you know what I mean. So yeah, he also hates Bane, and this is mainly because of two reasons. The first reason is because in the comics, or maybe the animated series, Bane broke Croc's arms, and that obviously leaves a bit of like bitterment between Croc and Bane. Second off was, from what I remember reading on the forums and the Facebook group Arkham City Limits, was because that apparently Titan Bane, big, bulky, big I'm on roids Bane, and Croc in the same list was apparently overwhelmingly powerful, so Knight's models basically adjusted it so that it was a bit more fairer for all parties. So basically you can go into any gang apart from those that I've just mentioned. He doesn't have any weapons because that goes into his personal traits. Personal traits, he has amphibious, which basically means he treats water features as open ground, because usually what happens is if you go through a water feature, such like a decorative water fountain or something like that, you know, something that's really big and stuff like that, like you would see at a water amusement park or something like that, then it will be treated as difficult ground, which means for every 2 centimeters counts as 1 centimeter. So, for example, if you're walking a guy across a water feature who had a basic movement distance of 10, then they would then have a basic movement distance of 5 as they're going across this watery landscape. But with Croc that isn't the case, he just moves across it because he's a living, walking, sentient crocodile man, so go figure. He has large, and large basically gives him a basic movement distance of 12 centimeters, so when he sprints, it's 24 centimeters, which is absolutely massive. If Croc falls from a building, then he treats every 10 centimeters worth of depth that he falls by for damage instead of every 5 centimeters for damage. Croc cannot be pushed, grabbed, or knocked down except by attacks from models that also have the large trait. So, just to give a representation, here's how big Croc is compared to Joker. That is humongous. I don't see like ordinary goons and people like the Joker or Scarecrow typically just pushing Croc off a building. You could try and say that he tries to jelly leg Croc and do a dirty trick to make him fall over, but even then I don't think even Joker would be that fast enough. I think if he tried that, Croc would just pick him up and slam him down into the ground until he can't physically move. So yeah, this is just to show like how big Croc is and basically why this is the case. His next rule is Tough Skin, which basically modifies all rolls to damage against Croc by 1. This also takes into effect special rules, like for firearms, for example, they usually need 2 up to wound. Not so with Croc, they need 3 up to wound with Croc. So yeah, basically this is a really good resilient way of trying to get past guns. In addition, this also works against close combat as well. So technically you could say that he has defense 4 if you use an unarmed attacks, but that method of thinking could change where if you have special weapons and special rules and stuff like that. But no matter what, all damage rolls suffer a -1 penalty against Croc when to damage them. Croc is a cannibal, so what happens is with cannibal is if Croc is in base contact with a knocked out character, then he must take a willpower test. If he fails the willpower test, then he must spend 2 counters of any kind and then devour the model, which basically treats the model as a casualty. Because, you know, getting your head ripped off by the jaws of reptile man over here wouldn't mean certain death. If Croc doesn't have these counters, then nothing happens to that, and you must make another willpower check in the next turn when you activate Croc next. Unless, of course, the character in question has recovered from his unconscious state. Obviously, we've been through hits, Batman and Bane and all them. And he also has claws. So, basically, claws means that his unarmed attacks do 1 blood and 1 stun damage, which gets even better when you go into coup de grace, or coup de grace, or whatever you'd pronounce it. Which is when there's a knocked out model, your first stun becomes your blood, so for every attack it will be 2 blood. So that's made Croc a lot more deadlier. Croc has a special trait called Lord of the Sewer, because obviously he is the Crocodile Man, he lives in the sewers. Killer Croc does not count towards the limit of miniatures that can be placed in the sewer. Usually the limit is 1, I believe. So basically you can have a maximum of 2 guys in the sewer, Croc and somebody else now, which is great. That you don't know how, until you actually play and see this ability in effect, then you don't actually realise how good that is. In addition, Killer Croc can start the game inside a sewer, which basically means turn 2 he's popping up no matter what you say. And he also takes 1 additional sewer marker to the initial marker pool. So that basically means that when you're rolling for sewers, the minimum you'll get is 2 and the maximum you'll get is 4. Now, when you add into account of the strategies, if I remember correctly, that's what they were called. The strategies. I'll just pause it. Yes, they're called strategies. You have 1 strategy, which basically is called maps, which you can either have 2 extra lampposts or 1 sewer marker, which of course you can choose, and then when you're deploying the sewer markers or the lampposts, you deploy them as well. If you're choosing a sewer marker, you're getting a possible maximum of 5 sewer markers. That's fantastic. That is lethal, because that will force your opponent to keep guessing which sewer Croc will pop out of. Either way, he's either going to try all out to try and stand on these sewers, to which case you can try and pick them apart with the rest of your gang, or he'll try and stay away as much as possible from those sewers, which basically means that your opponent's gang will be in 1 place, which is absolutely lethal and it's brutal. So now we'll go on to his stats. He is willpower 7, so he can allocate 7 counters to wherever he likes. His strength is 3+, which is absolutely fantastic, because 3+ is really good when you got 5 attacks and all you're doing is just constantly hammering into the foe. He's got a movement 2, which is pretty standard, pretty basic. Attack 5, he's the Crocodile Man. He's probably one of the most savage characters in Batman. Of course he's going to be attack 5. And 5 attacks, that's potentially 5 blood damage, and potentially on a knocked out character 10 blood damage, which is absolutely lethal again. In addition, if you're in close combat, your opponent's blocking on a 5-up your attacks. So again, he is an attacking mincemeat of a monster. His defense is 3, technically 4. Sometimes some people's method of thinking usually basically means that his defense 4, which is still good on its own. But defense 3 is his actual stat, and it's still quite good. But when you add the tough skin in, it really does make a lot more difference. He has endurance 9, making him the 2nd or 3rd most endurable character in the game, alongside Harvey Dent, who is also known as Two-Face. He has a special of 3, which is pretty standard as well. So we'll talk about Croc's role in your gang. Now, as someone who's used Croc in a tournament, Croc is a beast. However, he is not the type of beast who will go head on with another beast. So what I mean by that is, you know from what I've said earlier, you can get 5 sewer markers. Croc wants to use those sewers like hell. I'm not exaggerating when I say this, is you want as many sewer markers as possible if you're taking Croc. Because Croc wants to get out there and he wants to hurt things. What things I'll go into later, but again, when things pop out of sewers, your opponent's going to stay either well clear of those sewers or try and get as many guys on top of those sewers as possible, because your opponent will be hellified by scares from Croc. Perfect to go with the Scarecrow gang if you're into fear and psychological warfare. But like I say, Again, lots of sewers, perfect. Croc isn't known for going against... Actually, let's rearrange that. Croc is more like a scalpel. And what I mean like that is Croc can stand a fair fight against another monster. However, he doesn't have the blood damage to really hurt another monster like Solomon Grundy or Titan Joker. He can try it for all he wants. Yes, he can definitely try it, because at most he can try and knock down someone like Titan Bane or Solomon Grundy or Titan Joker, etc. But the most likely is you're going to do about 4 points of damage of whatever, and then your opponent's monster is going to hit back and you've just tar-pitted each other's monsters. Now that might make great for a narrative game or a friendly game, because, like I say, who doesn't want Solomon Grundy fighting Titan Bane or Croc fighting Clayface? That's great, that's an awesome idea. But in terms of a very tournament-wise game, and you might not want to do that, mainly because with henchmen all over the board trying to claim objectives, that's where Croc thrives. This is where I'm saying Croc becomes more of a scalpel. Croc goes in, he attacks 3 to 5 times on a henchman and will either knock him out. If he knocks him out, he has to pass for cannibal. If he passes cannibal, then you're going to have to wait till next turn. If he doesn't pass cannibal, then you get some fun and just completely devour him. Croc likes to go after henchmen because, I'll put it simply, tactics-wise, Croc is a bully. I can't say anything more. Like I say, Croc wants to eat, he wants to rip apart henchmen, because if you are giving your opponent less model count, then it's harder for them to pull off an objectives, and Batman is a very objective-based game. So Croc does extremely well in that regard, and what you'll most likely see is either your opponent will stay well clear of Croc and try and shoot him, and he will shoot, because if given the circumstances, if your opponent can make a line of sight with Croc, he will shoot like hell. He will fire everything into Croc, which means Croc does have the resilience. He does have a bit of resilience due to tough skin, but again, you put enough dice in, something gives way and Croc will go down like that. So Croc, again, a general rule of thumb, nobody likes to be on the face of a barrel of a gun. But Croc can take 1 or 2 hits. I remember an experience where, not necessarily guns, but in terms of monster-wise, I had Clayface and Swamp Thing both up against Croc. Croc managed to hold the combat 3 turns before finally giving way and dying. So yeah, Croc can tar-pit monsters, and Croc can do this, but he doesn't have the attack power, so to say, he doesn't have the damage to really focus, unless you are hell-bent on killing a certain monster. With Croc, then most likely outcome is he will get eventually beaten up. So you do want Croc, in terms of tournament level playstyle, you want Croc to go up after the henchmen, because it's the henchmen who count, simply because of how many objectives they grab. That's just simple as that. Croc has the endurance, he has the attack value, and he has a good, decent, solid enough defense. Your opponent may try to outnumber Croc and try to mob into him, in which case, I've seen this happen, and I've experienced this happen to me. It's a massive tar pit, and I'd say don't spread your attacks out, just concentrate on one henchman at a time, because the amount of times that's happened, and Croc's just went, right, I'm going to knock you out first, and then I'm going to eat you. Next turn happens, and so on and so on. Croc's great against henchmen. You want him to basically just mob over henchmen and eat them, and that is Croc's role. He is the henchman cleanser. You see a henchman's heavy list, and Croc's just going to smile with glee. That is Croc's role. So, hope you enjoyed that. This was the Warpforge with another Arkham Files for you with Killer Croc. If you enjoyed this and you want to see more Arkham Files when more stuff eventually gets painted and stuff like that, and you want to see more leaders, more sidekicks, more, I don't know, free agents, yes. Even if you really want to see henchmen, I'm more than happy enough to do henchmen with you all. Got no problems with that. But just comment if you want to see henchmen, because I'm more focused on the special character side, like Killer Croc and all that at the moment. If there's any characters that you want to see appear for an Arkham file on this channel, then please comment below and ask whatever, because the chances are at some point I will get them at some point, even if I don't have them now, because I absolutely love Batman as a game. It is my favourite miniatures game ever. And that's not just because it's Batman, it's because the rules are really, really fun and they're really cool. It's just everything I wanted in a game. It's got Batman, it's got the rules, it's got the balance, everything's fine for me. If you like this video, then please give it a like. If you want to share this video with other people to show how I might run Croc, and you want to give advice for other people, then please share this video out and all that. More people that watch this video, the merrier, as I say. So this is Warpforge, signing out, and remember, keep on forging.